Estate planning mistake number 6. The failure to make sure your heirs receive their inheritance over a period of time and not all at once, since, for example, most lottery winners go bankrupt within a few years after getting their financial windfall. It's just one of those things that I would say money is a curse. It's sad, but it's true that sometimes the money that you leave to your family can be the worst thing you ever do for them. And that's one of the reasons we use a trust in our estate planning a lot, so that particularly when you have younger children and as even young adults, and this thing with lottery winners comes at all ages, quite frankly. So at times our trust is set up that even for my children today, they might inherit a third when I die, a third 5 years later, and a third 5 years later, even though they're in their 30s and 40s. So they're allowed to inherit the property over time and adjust to having money. And if they make a mistake financially, make a bad investment, then they learn from their mistakes and they haven't blown the whole shebang, so to speak. So that is the purpose of a trust that we use very commonly, is to control. When we talk about who gets what and when, it's the when thing that the trust enables us to do. And so that you would have a trustee that would also be involved with your heirs, whether it's your spouse or your children. Your spouse could be the trustee, or you may want to have an investment advisor that works with your family on investments, so that if you're concerned about your family with their investments. We've designed things in a lot of different ways, and that's the whole purpose of a trust is to design exactly what you want for your family. And so there's a lot of variations, and we can explore that with you. But I think it's a very important feature. Actually, one of the newest things I've done with the trust for baby boomers, and something myself being a baby boomer, I recognize that our children, the baby boomers' children, and the young adults in their 30s and 40s, today's world, they're paycheck to paycheck. They're not going to have the opportunities that are out there necessarily to accumulate wealth. So one variation we have, quite frankly, is that the trust becomes a retirement plan for them. We control that basically they're not going to have access to the money. It's intended to be there for their lifetime. It's intended that if they became disabled for whatever reason, and the doctor certified that, then they would start getting an annuity out of the trust that would pay whatever's in the trust over their lifetime. Now, if you know what an annuity is about, basically you factor in an interest rate, and the money is paid monthly, and it's intended to basically provide a monthly income to pay that money out over their life expectancy. Let's say it's age 83. So if they can become disabled at 43, they'll have an annuity that pays out that a monthly amount for them over 40 years. Now, if they are working, another provision we put on our trust, quite frankly, is that you don't want the children not to work. Trust fund baby, you might have heard that term. So sometimes we'll put in a trust that they only get money from the trust if they work. And you can define how much you would want them to make, and you might match it. There's a lot of drugs and alcohol problems out there in the world today. I got to tell you, it's very real. 1 out of 8 people were really affected by alcoholism. The drug problem in northern Kentucky is very real with families. So parents are really concerned about their children, and it happens all walks of life. It doesn't, no class, no income, no education is immune from the problems that are out there. So we are designing our trust that basically shuts it down if that child becomes involved in drugs and doesn't work. That's usually one of the side things that happens. They start living off the trust fund to feed their drug or alcohol addiction. And that can happen in their 40s or 50s. So one of the purposes of the trust is to hold the children, it's tough love, but hold them accountable. And you don't want to feed their drug or alcohol addiction. It's tough. The other thing that I think is important too when we do our planning is that, I don't know if Social Security is going to be there for our children. I'm speaking as a baby boomer. Right now you always hear about that. And so are they going to have money available 30 or 40 years from now from Social Security? I'm scared to death about that. So part of the purpose for me in my estate plan is that I want that money to be held in trust. and they're going to get some income during their lifetime. This helps supplement their work if they're working. I put all these provisions in my trust last year. I designed this thing. So it's coming from the heart. It's my love of my children. And they're going to have something there that I don't know what Social Security is going to be available for them, but they're going to have a retirement plan. It's intended that when they turn age 62, that whatever money is left, whatever's in the pot, is going to be paid out over their lifetime, anticipating that they're not going to have much that they can rely upon with Social Security. And also my concern whether they're going to be able to accumulate the nest egg over the next 40 years. So this is how we use a trust. It's very creative in a way. It can do a lot of different things, but I think to me, I really am very, interested in working with clients on every family is unique. The children are unique. Ozzie and Harriet does not exist. I can tell you that. We see it every day in our practice. Yes?
Just out of curiosity, when you're setting up a trust, do you have to look down the road and say, okay, I'm giving this to my children, something happens after you pass away, they pass away, how does that, do you have to designate that then it would go to their children, or do you have to look that far down the road with the trust?
We do, absolutely. We look at all possibilities. So that typically, and it's not unusual, we keep it in the bloodline. It's called per stirpes. So we'll leave assets in trust for the benefit of the children, and we have a trust then for the grandchildren, basically, in that scenario. Sometimes you have special needs children we had a client in that his son is in New Mexico, fully on government support. There is a special trust we can do in that situation, so it's a supplemental needs trust. But he chose, there's two choices. You can do a trust that says, we'll provide for the child for things that the government doesn't provide, but if they lose the government support, they're disinherited. It's the poison pill. Ohio allows us to do that. However, he chose basically to say, you know what, I'm going to have my other children inherit the money. They have a moral obligation to take care of their sibling. So there's two ways of handling that situation. Okay, yes?
What if that money, like the first situation you said, that if he loses the government money, that the inheritance is lost, and there's nobody else to get that money, who gets the money?
Well, you identify, it could be your family tree. That's how it would typically work.
If there's no family, let's just say, worst case scenario.
In the state of Ohio or state of Kentucky. I mean, you can designate, that's why you want to trust. You decide, it could be a charity, your favorite charity.
To a charity, okay.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of times we have clients that use, really, we don't want the mom and dad because it's going to go to the nursing home. So a lot of times in the trust, we provide that something happens to, a couple and their children. We don't want it going to mom and dad. It goes to their siblings, and we disinherit mom and dad.
Right.
Or else they got to use it for their nursing home.
Have you ever had situations where, you have that, and it's 50 years down the road, and that company's not in business, or that charity's no longer in business or something?
We provide for that specifically, whether you want it to lapse or whether you want to provide another charity that does the same thing.
Oh, okay.
So we
Wanna make
cover
sure it's
all,
all covered.
we go into that type of detail,
Okay.
absolutely,
Okay, good.
very much so. Any other questions? Good questions.